All right, wonderful. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning as well from wherever you are joining us from. My name is Sharan Thaimade. I represent Seed Global Education. I'm one of the co-founders and the Chief Marketing Officer. We have quite a few people coming into this wonderful webinar that we have planned for you. This is organized by the University of Pittsburgh. We are going to be talking today about AI, which is one of the 21st century buzzwords. And it's not just a buzzword, it's a lot more than that. And over the course of the next 60 odd minutes, we'll learn a little more about AI and, most importantly, how business education is evolving in the 21st century with these wonderful people in the panel. We are going to talk about where academic learning meets career success and what's happening at the University of Pittsburgh, and how our universities actually joining and integrating with AI for creating programs for wonderful students like you. Before we begin, I'd like to learn a little bit about who there are about 150 odd of you in this room. Let us know which city you are joining us from. Let us know which city. You must, a lot of you here are from India, the Middle East. We've got some folks from Africa here as well. I'm looking at the chat. Use the chat function and let us know which city you are joining us from. I'm just checking if the attendees can post. Yes, now you will be able to post. Let us know which city you're joining us from. We have folks here from Pune, Jaipur, Rajasthan. James here from Kenya. Welcome. Some of you here from Zimbabwe, Hyderabad, Delhi, Nairobi. Quite a few of you here from Kenya. Thank you so much for making it. Good afternoon, good evening from you. Ronald here from Zimbabwe. Wonderful. So we've got folks here from different parts. Harmeet here is from the UK. Thank you so much, Harmeet, for tuning in this afternoon where you are as well. That's why I mentioned that it's also good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who is joining us. And folks, if you are here from Southeast Asia here as well, then it's a little late in the evening. But thank you so much. If you are joining us here from your phones, laptops, tablets, or any of these places, we welcome you. I promise you that over the next 60 minutes, you will learn a little bit more about AI. Keep it flowing in. Let us know which cities you are joining us from. We have 210 of you more in this room. Why I'm doing this and why we're not starting is that I know that a lot of people are still trying to connect. Zoom sometimes takes some time. So please bear with us, and we'll wait and we'll start in just a couple of moments from now as well. What I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to introduce you to Rebecca. Rebecca, by the way, is the Associate Dean for MBA and Specialty Masters and a Clinical Associate Professor of Business at the University of Pittsburgh Katz Graduate School of Business. She's going to be moderating, this panel of sorts of professors over the next 30 odd minutes. And I know you want to hear from Rebecca and the, 3 to 4 wonderful panelists. So less of me, more of them. I'm going to add them to Spotlight. And over to you, Rebecca. And firstly, thank you so much for taking our time to do this this morning in the US and this evening for the folks joining from different parts of the world. Rebecca?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So again, my name is Rebecca Badawi, and I am the Associate Dean for the MBA and the MS programs. And I'm really excited to be here with the panelists and with you all to talk about AI in business and how that's transforming business education. AI, of course, is no longer a future concept. It's actively reshaping organizations. So the question is no longer whether we should engage with AI or not. It's how do we do that strategically and responsibly? So tonight's conversation is not going to be about tools. It's about the business of AI. It's about how AI is changing the fundamental assumptions behind organizational decision making. We're going to hear from 3 panelists today. So we have Professor Hung-Joon Yi, so Assistant Professor of Marketing. We have Professor Narayan Ramasubu, Samuel A. McCullough Professor of Business Administration. We also have Laura Okaneski, Senior Director of Graduate Academic Programs and Student Services. So before we jump into our exciting list of questions, I want to give the panelists each a brief moment to share a little bit more about what they do at Pitt Business. So whoever wants to jump in first.
Hi
Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Good to see everyone. My name is Narayan. I'm a professor of business administration at Pitt. I'm the area director for information systems and technology management. Look forward to chatting.
Hi
Professor Lee.
everyone. My name is Hongjin Yi. I'm on the marketing faculty. I have a PhD in marketing with a minor in computer science.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Okaneski, Senior Director of Graduate Academic Programs and Student Services. So I oversee the team of staff who really help to support our students through the entirety of their experience, whether that's academic operations and advising, career support, employer engagement, and then all of our co-curricular programming as well.
Thank you all for being here. So I'm going to ask questions and I'll let it, you all decide sort of where you want to jump in and, we'd love to hear from all of you. So first question is about how many organizations are, of course, experimenting with AI, but the degree to which it is actually transforming their operations varies widely. So from your perspective, how is AI reshaping the current equilibrium?
Let me take that. And Hangjin, do you want to go first?
You can
Okay.
go ahead. I will jump in later.
So, uh, Beck, you mentioned equilibrium. The way I think about this is technological evolution. There are punctuated equilibriums. Now and then we get a general purpose technology that really punctuates the stable equilibrium that is there. And AI is considered one such general purpose technology that's going to pretty much change the status quo. When it does, how it does is going to be gradual, but there's a punctuation that has already happened. So whenever these types of punctuations happen, the entire landscape starts to change, and that is an exciting moment for everybody. Scary, but also exciting moment. And I think we were in a very stable technological evolution. Now and then we got wonderful products, but this is going to completely reshape the landscape. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yes, I agree. I think with all the AI advancements, things have definitely been moving much faster than before. So to give some example, I teach product development, right? And now with AI advancement, vibe coding become a thing. That means the entry barrier has been much lower than before. Anyone with a good idea can create their new app in a very short period of time. That means more competition and consumers have more choices in general. But what kind of product can eventually be successful in the market, I think that's one thing fundamentally that's not changed. You still have to have solid understanding of your consumer, the market. You still need to be creative and you need to outperform your competitors. That remains unchanged. So there are a lot of things that are changing, but there are also things that fundamentally is still the same. So to find a balance here, I think is going to be the key in the future.
I think one thing I would add that we're hearing from employers is that, not only obviously are they looking for students who are graduates who are able to, use and adopt the use of these AI tools, but they're looking for folks who are able to, in the long term, continue to adapt. So it's not just, can you use what's on the market today? It's, do you have the skill set to continue learning, continue adapting as a leader so that you can help your company and to do the same. So it's not just kind of, can you use Claude? Can you use this? Can you use that? It's, can you actually, 5 years from now, adapt and help your organization adapt to whatever it is that comes next in that 5 years? And that's more important now than ever.
So there's this period of stable skills. Hongjun mentioned that, but it's also punctuations often provide periods of opportunity. So, it's a type of a paradox. There is stability, there is change, but together when we look at it, it's periods of opportunities, and adaptation here particularly means experimenting with those opportunities and grabbing them.
Yeah, I love that framework because it really positions emerging professionals, at this this apex of being able to take advantage of all of this change, right? If you position yourself well. That's a perfect lead into my next question, which is what misconceptions do managers and professionals often have about AI adoption?
So from an organizational point of view, it might appear that with all this change and all the frenzy expectations on these technologies or instant delivery of something new, we mentioned opportunity, experiments, and so on, but it's been repeatedly shown in research with any technology, however exciting it is, like AI, there is like a J curve type of return on investments, like a hockey stick type of a pattern. At the moment, we see a lot of capital expenditures. On individual side, it is a lot of skill development, the equivalent of organizations spending a lot of capital on building these skills. The payoff at the moment, moment to moment, year to year, quarter to quarter, if you see at this point in time, it will look like a lot is going on, very little is coming out, or giving this myth of, oh, it's hype. It's all hype and nothing is changing. But then, like the hockey stick pattern, suddenly there will be a moment where everything has changed suddenly because it's such rapid growth of the return on all the investment we have made. So, visualizing that day in and day out on our decisions that the J curve is happening is a little bit hard, and I see it in students, I see it in managers too. So this is my first type of thinking about, oh, there is a J curve happening at the moment. Where we are in the J curve, being astute about it uh, will lead to a lot of benefits. The second thing I would say is both on the individual side and organizations, we all want our own situations not to change, but everything exciting and opportunities to occur in the world, right? But often disruptions don't happen like that. So current incentives, current periods of stability we enjoy for ourselves will be threatened, will change. So how we think about it, like nothing is going to change in my job, including my job as a professor, is never the case when punctuated equilibriums happen. Um, the final thing I would say is about the technology. We live in the world of open claw and agents everywhere. This is the dream. We want all these agentic minions to do all our boring job. But then, in order for them to do well, we have to give some autonomy. So this is another paradox on these are erroneous, error prone at the moment. Promise from technologies that it'll improve over time, that it will get to perfect results. But at the moment, they're not perfect. So, how do we expend more effort supervising all these agents, but then at the same time get all the benefits is a kind of a tension there. Ignoring the tension is a problem, is a myth that there is no such tension. So I'll stop there. I gave you three about incentives, the J curve, and also about how to manage autonomy versus supervision for errors.
I think in terms of misconception, I'll speak from marketing's standpoint. I think one thing is that sometimes people will think that it's either AI or human. You can, have either or to perform a task. I think in the future, it will more be of a collaboration. It's gonna be those who can use AI efficiently will be the one that will perform well on their job. Doesn't matter what kind of job that is. Right? I think that's one very important thing here is I think it's for people with skills and great intuitions. AI is gonna provide the most benefit to them. It's not like anybody with any AI tool can produce the exact same result like that. And another thing is to think about AI. Yes, this is definitely major technological advancement. It's very new. I know some people, myself included, from time to time feel anxious about that. But to look back in the past, there have been breakthrough like that before. For an example, social media, digital marketing. Before that, there was nothing like that. And well, overnight, the entire field of marketing were thinking things like, oh, we need to make everything digital now. But look at where we are right now. They just coexist. They just coexist. And Sam, with e-commerce, people were not used to shopping online at all, and comes to e-commerce platform change how people shop, but still in-person shopping, brick and mortar, all that, they still exist. And that's how I see it's gonna be like in the future. AI definitely is gonna stay, but it's not gonna replace every single aspect that we had before. That I don't think would be the case, right? And another misconception I want to say is the efficiency, this particular part. So for an example, recently there are a lot of new tools become available, and there will always be new tools available, such as Nano Banana, Seed Dance, those kind of tools for people to make video content in split second. And the pricing model for those tools usually is they give you 5 seconds for free, and all after that you have to pay really high price for that. You may end up still paying over $1,000 to make a short 20-second video to post on social media. It sounds very fancy. It's all AI generated, high production quality. But is it really efficient to do it like that? Maybe you could have it done with a team of very creative human being for less of the price. And same thing with a lot of AI tools out there that now people use it to analyze the data, to summarize the data, right? There are a lot of very basic model open source tools out there that can do the same thing in a short period amount of time and for free. So it's not just about knowing what's going on with AI, and it's also knowing about fundamentally what are we trying to solve, and are we solving the question in the most efficient way. Yeah.
Thank you. There's a lot to dive into there. And I'm particularly eager to hear from the side of things from building careers. So we just heard a lot about some misconceptions and maybe some preconceived notions about AI that might not be accurate. So as we're thinking about those things, how should emerging professionals think about building careers?
So I think one thing, in terms of as we provide career advising to students that kind of ties to the last question about misconceptions is, we get students asking, and I think there was maybe even some in the Q&A of, what AI role can I apply to? And, it's kind of this narrow thinking of like, I'm going to learn AI skills and tools, and then I'm going to go get a job doing AI at a business. And in reality, it's about being able to use these tools across all functions, across all positions. Really, employers are looking now for graduates who, maybe don't have that deep kind of machine learning, computer science, programming knowledge and ability, but how can they, as day-to-day users of these tools, leverage them for the business? So that's something that we really try to drive home for students as it relates to their career planning and their career search is, find ways to develop kind of your functional expertise, whether it's finance, marketing, supply chain, you name it, and how you integrate AI into that. So it's not siloed, it's not this standalone thing, but it's integrated into these other aspects of business, because in reality, it's not functioning in a silo in any given company.
Thank you. So as we're thinking about how these capabilities, what employers are looking for is changing, what does that mean for graduate business education and how we prepare students? And I'm curious to hear from two angles. One is sort of that traditional instruction that, classes and classrooms and projects, but the other is how do we support students? So what support services are, necessary in this sort of changing environment?
It ties back to the previous question also, as a professional, how do we prepare for this? And structured education like at Pitt Business it gives you the room to prepare for this. And the established functions, domain knowledge in each of those functions of interest to students is still going to be super key. AI is going to facilitate a lot of intriguing things, but like earlier we talked about, Hong Jun mentioned, it's human AI collaboration. So the human skills, the human domain knowledge, value perspectives, contextual things are all still highly relevant. So a part of like both the change and the stability we talked about, the paradox, both are going to coexist. So the domain knowledge is important. We still have to learn calculus. We still have to learn how to do a good campaign, how to run IT governance. All of these are fundamentals. The challenge is, should we learn these fundamentals in the same way as we have done? I think AI at Pitt, we provide all these tools, Claude for education, for example, removes some of the bottlenecks we have had in a commoditized setup of class. Now you can make it really personal. The pace can be personal. The depth in which you want to go can be personal. It can be, it can be broad, it can be deep, and the student can take it in whichever way. So as a professor, I find that exciting rather than one size fits all type of a classroom. When I was a student, it was like that, everybody uses the same textbook, same structure, and so on. So that is part of an excitement. We have embraced it. I think many good schools will embrace this approach of personalized education. Um, so as a student, I think, domain skills are still important, but there is also an attitude thing that is on steroids now. Um, so for example, if I introduce a concept in class, and if I come across a student who asks me again the same question in the next class, it's earlier I used to be frustrated. Now I'm super frustrated because, hey, you have a thing on the desktop called Claude for Education, and you didn't ask that question for this, and you're coming back and waiting. So this is the attitude. We got to be extremely proactive, extremely experimenting, which aligns with the type of change one has to manage as a manager. We used to say managing is all about dealing with uncertainty. Now it is like you have done something to deal with uncertainty. Let's talk about what did you do, type of education. So this as a professor, I'm very excited about that ability to go further with these tools. I don't see it as a replacement for the type of educational ecosystem we have built, but it helps us go further in helping a student.
That sounds so exciting. It's like a new level has been unlocked. We can do so much
Yes.
more. Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. Love to hear from the other panelists.
Yeah, to build on top of that, I also saw some of the questions from the Q&A. People were asking about, if I don't have any technical background, how should I be prepared for this? I want to say it's actually very similar to what's going on in new product development, right? You can vibe code and all that. That means that I think the mindset, having the correct mindset and attitude is more important than having technical, hardcore technical background because you can catch up very, very fast now. Uh, to me, I think the most important mindset to have, I think, is to be curious. And then you need to learn how to learn. And that goes back to what Laura was saying earlier, is that now employers want those who knows how to learn as the new tools keep coming up. Can you keep up with that and never stop learning? I think that's one thing that we teach at Pit Business as well. Not like I teach you these concepts and you're done. It's more like where these concepts are coming from. What can you do with it? So for an example, in my AI to marketing class, I do teach the new tools, most recent tools that come up in the market. But before I get into that, I'll teach the fundamental, the theories and all of those, how to help students understand how the AI tools evolve to what we're seeing right now. Because if we keep just trying to chase what is the latest, what's newest, then we will just fall behind. If you understand the fundamental of it, then you will be prepared no matter what the changes are right in front of you. And I think that's how I see the business education uh, it will change in the future as well. And I think another thing that is I think is very fun that students get to do at Pitt Business is there are a lot of experiential learning, project-based class. For example, we have a class called Consulting Field Project, and that class will take in different clients from the industry, and students will work in small group with faculty mentor, and they can just explore and be creative and come up with the solutions, recommendation, and whatnot. And a lot of students find it very beneficial from that kind of experience. Yeah. And I think maybe Laura will have more to add to that, the student experience that part.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so there's a lot that we do to support students as it relates to AI, and from different perspectives as well. So we have provided students with access to a number of different AI-enabled tools to support their success. So things like when you're preparing your resume and needing to revise that for different job opportunities, leveraging AI to do that efficiently. Which also then, to kind of some of our earlier conversation about this balance between AI and human, using an AI tool for something like that opens up our human support staff to really provide students with individualized strategy conversations and coaching on what their career search plan is, what their career goals are, because they're not having to spend the time doing the actual, editing of the resume because we've, leveraged AI for that. And so it actually opens up more of that kind of human interaction for some of the bigger picture work with students to support them. We also offer a lot of experiential opportunities outside of the classroom. So Professor Yi talked about one of our classes, but we have a number of different opportunities, both in kind of the professional development realm. So along this theme of, continuous learning, lifelong learning, developing that as a habit, we have kind of a unique setup here at Pitt Business where every fall and spring semester, we essentially host a professional development conference for our students. It's run conference style, so there's concurrent sessions, and we have a lot of sessions now in those weeks that are around AI and its application in business. So that's a way for students to kind of get these small snippets of exposure to emerging trends. But we also offer kind of much more in-depth and applied experiences outside of the classroom as well. So for example, we have something called the Bridge program, which every summer provides students the opportunity to support community organizations through a consulting framework. And I was just talking to the staff member who manages that yesterday, and he was telling me about a project that's coming up this summer that is going to have students working with the city of Pittsburgh to leverage AI to develop an app that will encourage community members to take more advantage of the recreation centers and the various resources here in the city that are available. And so it's really exciting to see not only students have this kind of applied in-depth project, but also one that goes along with some of our, other values here at Pitt Business in terms of community engagement and support. So we really do kind of cover the spectrum of using the tools to support you, but also giving you a lot of these out of the classroom exposures to it as well.
Thank you all. I mean, I think you summarized really well some of the distinctive elements of Pitt Business. And I do want to sort of add a tack on question here. So we talked a lot about those that want to get into practice right away, want to graduate and go into the workforce. What about for those that are interested in research, that really want to be at the cutting edge of how this stuff develops?
Yeah, that's a great opportunity at the moment. Not many of our MBA and MS students are exposed to this opportunity, research as a career. That's the path I took after my engineering. I was working in the industry, but then discovered this whole world of research in business school. Since we have AI, I mentioned is a general purpose technology. Likewise, a business degree, I find it opens your mind to several issues of interest to both society in general, but also cross-cutting issues across different business functions. And research, Pitt as a university and Pitt Business as a school are a research intensive places. It's not only for teaching and spreading our knowledge, but also creating new knowledge in this space. And there is a lot of opportunity at Pitt. Students are welcome to participate as research assistants to get a taste of what this research is all about. And then the pathway opens from there, getting curious and participating with in research projects that are happening. The other panelists mentioned about industry-oriented field projects, community-oriented projects. Likewise, there's a whole realm of projects which research professors take lead in, and these sometimes may be abstract, forward-looking, and so on, but they give a taste of what academic research is, and they are often interdisciplinary because the problem statements go beyond a particular narrow domain. We offer a lot of opportunities, and I always get excited when students want to know more about research.
Thank you. So I have one final question here. You all talked about all of the exciting ways we can, students that come and join us can get their hands dirty, roll up their sleeves, get into the projects, jump into it, learn from hands-on. As sort of a final concluding thought, and it shouldn't be a concluding thought because it's very important, what should emerging professionals be thinking about in terms of this idea of responsible or ethical use of AI? I know we won't have time to fully unpack that idea, but if we were to, think of a couple of bits that can help with a mental model or a framework around these topics.
I would say many. The way education was set up for me in India as an engineering student, we don't have time for philosophy. We learn engineering and we learn applications and exciting things. And so I think this is a time to get a little bit of liberal education and start reading philosophy. And then we ask existential questions. Philosophy often does not answer these questions, but at least raises these questions of what is the role of humans? Why should, if everything is super efficient in an agentic world, what is the point of a job? Why do we exist, and what is our purpose? I think it starts there, and then we can ask: is it legitimate to use AI in any decision making? So a manager who has that orientation will will automatically get curious about what it means to be a responsible user of AI. And we have courses and gets people to thinking in this more. But at the moment, I think the legitimacy question, we are all excited about AI because it can, but asking the question of why we have to do it in certain ways and not other ways, and then what are we really doing that we couldn't do before with AI are good starting points, I think, for students interested in this pathway.
Yeah.
And I think is to think about the limitations and biases that the AI model that you're using may have. Um, use that to guide your decision making. I think that's important. Another thing that I think is important is from marketing standpoint, we want to distinguish between what is legal and what is ethical. What may be legal may not be ethical and vice versa. Either way, consumers will react to it, right? So that's something to think about. I like reading legal cases about AI usage, but at the same time, how do people, human beings, feel about certain usage? I think that's another story that we want to also pay attention to as well.
Thank you. That was a great note to wrap up on, some bits to sort of keep in the back of our mind as we're approaching some of these questions. So as we wrap up, I just want to return to the central idea from tonight's discussion. AI is not simply a technological shift. It's a managerial shift. It's a mindset shift. It's changing how teams make decisions and how value is created. So, current and future leaders who will thrive in this environment are not just those that understand the technology, or it's the folks that can ask the right questions that are approaching it with the right framework. And I hope you got from tonight that at Pitt Business, we are intentionally building programs that reflect this reality. We draw on the strength of the University of Pittsburgh ecosystem, which is, the School of Business is incredibly strong, and it's positioned within a highly reputable R1 institution, the University of Pittsburgh, which is positioned within the innovation-driven Pittsburgh region. So we really are sort of at this ideal intersection of opportunity, and we're really excited to continue talking to students and learning about how we develop our programs to support the students. So I want to thank the panelists for their contribution tonight, and I want to thank the attendees for being part of this very important conversation. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to our host, Sharon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rebecca, Professor Yee, Prof. Narayan, and Laura for these wonderful insights about AI and AI more in business education. I'll tell you what, and maybe I'm echoing this on behalf of the 293 folks that were here. That when we went to high school or undergrad or in India or maybe on behalf of some of my friends here from Kenya and from different parts of Africa, we did not learn what was really active at that time. We had course curriculum, etc. That was one size fits all. The same thing for maybe 3, 5, 10 years, which really didn't make us leaders for the 21st century. Which is why I think what the University of Pittsburgh is doing, which is to make the candidates aware of what's happening in the 21st century, but also prepare them for the real world in the future. I think that's super critical because what we learned again was the same thing my friends or my seniors 10 years ago also learned, because same textbook, same curriculum, but that's something that we need to evolve in this day and age. Thanks so much once again. Now I'd like to invite Gina. Gina represents the admissions team of the University of Pittsburgh Katz Business School, and she's going to talk us through a little bit about why you should be considering this particular university, a little bit about the admissions process, and some very critical information that might help you decide that University of Pittsburgh could be a great fit for you. Gina, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's masterclass. I know I definitely did and learned a lot. And, just a couple things to touch upon in terms of admissions, because, we offer some great MBA and MS programs. And, I hope you're excited and looking at the opportunity to join us here at the University of Pittsburgh School of Business. So I mentioned we have a top MBA program. These are just some of our most recent accolades that we're pretty excited about, along with our master's programs. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about the specifics, but because the majority here are all international students, so I would encourage you to look at our full-time MBA program plus the business analytics, which makes it a STEM degree. You can also add business analytics onto the master's degrees if that's what you're interested in as well. What that does is gives you a more robust quantitative analytical curriculum, but again, STEM designated, which helps international students who wish to pursue some job opportunities here in the States after graduation. Here we say 1 degree. So regardless if it's the signature MBA, 18 months, or the business analytics degree, you're taught by the same faculty. The classes are the same regardless of the programs, more so like if you were joining the part-time, which is a little less relevant for folks on the call. But as you can see, the STEM designated is 21 months. What that looks like is your traditional fall, spring semester, potential summer internship, you return again for the fall, spring, and then an additional semester to finish out that business analytics portion on the degree. We offer quite a bit of leadership development opportunities, experiential learning, which our faculty and Laura talked about throughout this talk, and hopefully you were able to join us in the session a few weeks ago where we went into a lot of details, such as our capstone projects. They most recently traveled to Charlotte, met with some financial institutions and an NFL team's front office staff as well. They've also previously traveled to Atlanta. So it's an exciting time. It's a fun week of a lot of networking and meeting alums as well. We also offer joint degrees with other schools here at the University of Pittsburgh, such as engineering, international potential MS in international development, public of international affairs school, in addition to our dual degrees. So you can combine our MBA with our MS degrees listed. And we also offer the credentials. So that's your electives, which they are stackable. So, take what's of interest to you, what you feel you're going to need to excel in your career. I want to touch upon the application because we do have a deadline coming up in April, but we really truly believe the holistic approach to admissions is more valuable for our students. We look at the academic readiness. We want to know if you're able to handle the rigors of our graduate degrees, whether it's MBA or MS, the career goals that you have in relation to your resume. We understand if you might be switching careers, but you have those transferable skills that we're able to evaluate and see, can we help you achieve those goals? Can we help you get there? Of course, the essays, our essay questions are there for you to lend your voice to the application, share more about you, help us get to know you a little bit better throughout the process as well. And that's how we determine the fit. But of course, you also help drive the fit because do we have the programs that you're looking for? And on our side, again, it's can we help you achieve those goals? And then again, through the process, the communication, the leadership, again, that's a little bit tied into the essays or if granted an interview. So I mentioned our April 15th deadline that's coming up for international students. And if you have any additional questions, we'll put our information in the chat as well. But, the application materials are pretty straightforward. If I know the majority of people on here are from India or where you may have a 3-year undergraduate bachelor's degree. And in that instance, we do request a transcript evaluation. I know some companies like Wes are more popular than others, but we don't require you to go through any specific company. But if you do have a 3-year bachelor's degree, we would require the transcript evaluation. But otherwise, the materials are pretty straightforward with essays, letters of recommendation, the resume, and such. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our office. We do have some upcoming events that we would love for you to attend. In a few days, we do have the University of Pittsburgh is hosting a graduate student panel where you'll hear from one of our current business students along with other students from the other schools here at Pitt. But specific to us, April 3rd, we have our information session coming up where we'll go into much more detail about the programs, both MBA and MS, and then the application workshop. So if you have any last minute questions before that deadline coming up, again, I would encourage you to attend. We do offer application fee waivers for the April 3rd and April 9th events. So we hope to see you there. I would love to continue the conversation, and I will also put my contact information in the chat. I'll just leave that. Scan me up for just another quick second in case you're registering right now. But again, I'm looking forward to, meeting everyone, continuing the conversation after today's class. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina. That was a little bit about University of Pittsburgh. I know the team and professors and the team here has been absolutely at it answering all the 29 odd questions in the chat. So I encourage the 275 of you still in this room that if you have any questions, I would encourage you to use the Q&A tab. And what I have done over the last few minutes is that I have gone through some of the questions and they have been wonderfully answered by our guests. However, I have some questions of my own, and I'm taking inspirations from some questions that the students have asked. I'd like to start with Prof. Narayan or Prof. Yi or Laura to talk a little bit about AI and these particular concerns. Are there for a lot of candidates that have not come from a technical background. By technical, which means that we have not studied an engineering or an bachelor's degree which is focused on engineering. Is that a requirement to get into any of these, particular courses? Are we behind the curve at this stage, compared to some of the engineering folks who know how to, let's say, build some of these codes? Could you throw some light on what can non-technical candidates do before they come into B school so that, once we're there, we're actually all on par with some of, these engineers, if I'd like to say so?
Learn Python. So and high school kids learn Python these days. So and you have a host of tools, but that was only half kidding. It's true. Learn Python. But then I want to dispel this entire myth. I've taught fairly technical courses, non-technical courses. In almost all courses, um, especially from students from Southeast Asia and so on, the top students who have given creative awards and so on have not always been engineers. People started the course with no experience in any sort of coding, including Python. So in 14 weeks, it's not about what you already knew before in your undergraduate education, but how you're going to bring all of that into the space in which the course operates. I mean, I'm talking about a course, so there is absolutely no difference in the landscape for engineering students or non-engineering students. Now, that said, engineering students spend their skill development in a course about storytelling, about articulating, about understanding what is this thing called business, what are these imperatives in business that it is not like solving a math problem alone. There are these agents called humans who don't behave like a math problem. What do I do? These are aspects that engineers have not thought deeply about in their background. For the others who come from a liberal background, liberal education background, non-technical background, time is spent on speeding up on analytical skills, speeding up on getting up these skills like Python skills or any other statistical skills and so on. So people come with all kinds of background. It is a uniform playground for everybody. Everybody has to learn what they are missing. So that's the fun part, and nobody is at a disadvantage if you have the right attitude of learning.
I understand. Thank you so much for that, Professor Narayan. Professor Yee, one of the biggest questions, and not just in 2026, over the last couple of years, that has been there on every second Instagram reel or TikTok, or if you read an article on, Financial Times, or be it any other publication, how is AI going to take your job away, right? You could be an accountant, you could be a software engineer, you could be in finance and marketing in any of these courses. Could you throw some light on what are some of the upskilling things? I know Professor Narayan spoke about learning Python. If I'm doing something at this stage, what are some of the upskilling things that I should do outside of my profession so that I can be a 21st century leader and use AI as an advantage, as a tool to upskill rather than it being causing issues and me being redundant as an accountant or a software engineer or as any other profession.
I think that's a good question. I think it comes down to two things. First is we need to have the ability to know what is correct and what is not correct, how much we can really trust the results that AI are showing us. That's also why learning the fundamental is still very important, because if you don't know anything about statistics and then you just throw a huge data set to AI and ask AI to give you the result, you will have no idea whether or not what you're seeing is correct, right? So that's the very first important thing. And then another thing is to really try to think of what does that mean for something to have a human touch. I think that will be more important, especially now that I've been thinking about the development in video generation. AI can do a lot of great things, but there are going to be something that will resonate more with us as human beings than other. And what is that? And do we have the ability to understand that and to create something like that? I think that would be more important.
Thank you so much, Profi, for this. My next question to you, Rebecca, or to Gina, you guys can, throw some light on this topic. There were some questions that came in the Q&A tab about my undergraduate scores were not great. And a lot of admission directors, have this, phrase that they use very often, that we have a holistic admission process. Could you throw some light on what is the definition of the holistic admission process? What's the meaning of it? And secondly, could you also throw some light on if my undergrad grades are not great? Do I not stand a chance of studying at your university? What can I do to try and make do that?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this question because holistic admissions is something I'm very passionate about. And it can be used as a buzzword, but I promise it's not a buzzword at Pitt Business. We take it very seriously. In fact, we've overhauled our entire admissions process in the last year and a half. And so to put some, concrete terms to that, what does that mean? We look at the actual candidate. So what we're really interested in understanding is who is this person as a human. Talked a lot about, AI bots. We want to know who they are as a human. We want to know what their experiences were in their life and how that shaped their mindset. and how that's going to inform how they approach graduate business education. So I can tell you, we've had a lot of candidates that we reviewed that pre-holistic admissions probably wouldn't have made the cut because they had, maybe their undergraduate GPA wasn't great, or maybe they had a test score that wasn't so strong. And when we applied the holistic admissions lens to it, and we got to learn who this person was, and we got to learn what they learned from those experiences, from those challenges, it really sort of flips that whole idea on its head. So it really positions that student that struggled stronger than the student that didn't struggle. Meaning that if that student can articulate to me, the one that struggled, the one that has the bad GPA, if that student can articulate to me how they've learned and how they've grown from that, and they can show they're going to apply that skill set to this next chapter of their life, I want that student. That's the one that I want in my program more than I want the one that didn't struggle. And that's what holistic admissions means. So how do you actually show us that? In our application materials, whether it's MBA or MS, there are required essays and there are optional essays. Do the essays. Do the essays and actually tell us who you are. Don't make it generic. Don't make it vague. Don't wash it. Let us actually see you. Tell us about your stories. Tell us about the things you faced. If you had a not so great GPA, what happened? What did you learn from that? How is that going to be different in the next chapter? If you experienced challenges that really challenged your mindset, tell us about that. So really the areas that we're seeing students are shining is the essays, so they're required, but especially the optional, and the interview. So for our MS students, you do a recorded interview and we review all of those and we look at, what you have to tell us about who you are. And for our MBA candidates, you do a live interview and it's the same thing. We're really looking to understand who you are. So we look more towards the characteristics, the traits, the fit, the resilience, the grit, than we do just these cutoff. We don't use cutoffs anymore. We've completely eliminated that from our admissions process.
Thank you so much for that, Rebecca. On a similar line, Rebecca, there are some questions that I was just going through the chat about, things around scholarships. What are some of the key criteria? Gina, Rebecca, if you can throw some light about, scholarships. What percentage can students expect? What kind of skills they need to showcase through their application to then be eligible for scholarships? And I know that, I'm conscious of this because this was shared by Gina in her presentation, but still, it's one of the important elements that we'd like you to highlight, please.
Absolutely. So we actually don't have a separate application process for scholarships. Everybody who submits an application and gets admitted is automatically reviewed for scholarships. We have, we really award most of our scholarships for the full-time MBA program. And that, again, is based off of we also use a holistic review for our scholarships as well. So we look at things like, as I mentioned before, those traits and those characteristics, and in particular fit with our program. So the direction that we're taking the school in terms of things like digital transformation in the AI space, and things like, our taking advantage of the University of Pittsburgh ecosystem, so healthcare, things like societal impact. We have a long history in the School of Business that is focused on societal impact. So we're sort of at the intersection of all of these things. And so when students can demonstrate that they have history in these areas, or if they have interest in breaking into those areas, that really significantly helps their likelihood for scholarships. As I mentioned before, we award more in the MBA space than we do in the MS space. Our typical scholarship is around 40% in the MBA space. But we have a partnership with Seed, and we are offering specific scholarships for those that come through the Seed pipeline, where there's 25% scholarships for MS students, which is higher than we offer if you were not to come through Seed. So that's a really great opportunity. Go to Seed's website and look at that. And we also have a couple of MBA specific ones as well. So again, it's going back to showcasing us who you are, demonstrating to us that you understand our school, our program, our direction, and that you really fit with that. And not being afraid to show yourself in the application.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I will be shortly posting the link to the seed scholarship for the University of Pittsburgh. Laura, you've been with the University of Pittsburgh for so long, and you've, as student services, and at your role, you would have seen a lot of students coming into, some of the MS and MBA programs, graduating. What kind of companies, what kind of roles do you see a lot of these Indians, African students get into after they graduate? Could you throw some light? And I know you're not from career services, so we're not looking for stats, but could you throw some light on what can students expect? Because ROI, return on investment, is something that a lot of students from this part of the world really focus on when they decide to do their MS or MBA programs.
Yes, absolutely. So ROI is actually one of our kind of top performing measures when you look at the success of our graduates. So we have students who land in a variety of industries and roles. I would say some of our most common employers that we see pretty consistently year after year fall into consulting, as well as some of the kind of traditional technology companies like Amazon. We really pride ourselves on kind of that individual path for students and helping to connect students with those companies and industries and roles that are going to be the best fit for them. We leverage our our alumni network very strongly. So that's another kind of top performing measure for us, is the size and scope of our alumni network. And that plays a really key role for us in kind of leveraging these employment outcomes. Right now, we actually have a program running called Panther Perspectives, where students are meeting with alumni for individual and small group mentoring. And these are folks who are at companies like Microsoft and Deloitte and Amazon. And so we're making those connections for students, both kind of from the employer engagement perspective, but also from this broader networking perspective as well, to support their career goals.
Super. Thank you so much for that, Laura, as well. Wonderful. I think we are 2 minutes over time, and I know we budgeted for about an hour. We had quite a few questions come in. All of them have been very efficiently answered. Close to 30 questions been efficiently answered by our wonderful panelists. For the 216 of you that are still here, thank you so much for taking up time. In case you joined late, we've had some of this session recorded, so we're going to share a link with you to access this in case you came late. We'll also be sharing the link. It's right now in the chat, which is to apply to University of Pittsburgh and some special scholarships. Remember, their deadline is approaching in the first half of April. So I recommend that, in case you're still thinking of studying abroad, in case you're thinking of applying to another university, University of Pittsburgh could be a very, very good choice. And applications, as mentioned, the still open deadline is close to 8th or 9th November, if I'm not wrong, Gina.
April 15th.
April 15th, perfect. So we have a little more, just under a month, and it's a good enough time for you to get all your documents in place and to apply to University of Pittsburgh. Be sure to also reach out to anyone from the admissions team, especially Gina, Rebecca, to spend some time with them to understand what you can do in your application, because it is a top business school, and AI in business and education. This masterclass proves to show that it is a 21st century ready business school for wonderful candidates like you. Take this opportunity once again to thank our wonderful panelists, Prof. Narayan, Prof. Yi, Laura, Rebecca. Thank you so much for moderating this so well, Gina, and very much thank you to Ania as well for answering all the questions patiently in the chat. Once again, to the 215 of you, thank you so much. And we look forward to doing some more masterclasses to talk to you a little more about AI. Before I leave, Rebecca, any final words, any final thoughts for our wonderful panelists and the 215 audience members as well?
Yeah, I mean, again, I really think the panelists here, I think you're doing a wonderful job showcasing what we have to offer. And for the attendees, I just want to say I can't wait to see your application come through. We can't wait to learn about you, and we can't wait to welcome you to the University of Pittsburgh.
Super. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a nice rest of the day to our panelists here, and good night, good evening to our folks here from India and West Africa and from different parts of the world. We'll be in touch. My name is Sharan, Seed Global Education, and we'll reach out to you with all the information. Thank you, and bye bye.